Good evening, good evening, good evening. Buy Black for Life. Buy Black for Life. Welcome, 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 my Buy Black for Life family, community. My name is Jay Hurt, Jerome Hurt, founder, CEO of the Buy Black for Life group and Buy Black for Life app. Buy Black for Life. Here we are. So we are having another conversation. I like to call these basically the Founders Forum because I have conversations with people that it is so important for our community to know who they are, where they are, what it is that they do. So welcome to Buy Black for Life. Put in the chat for me where you are, where you're watching from, hashtag your city. Let us know where you are, whether you're watching on replay or you're watching live. Let us know where you are. And I have a brother that, man, how we met was funny. It was his wife just like putting us together. She,
Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna do a live. I'm gonna do a Zoom meeting, and I had no idea what the Zoom meeting was. And the next thing I know is me and this brother having a conversation. And ever since then, it's been fire. We have conversations all the time. We connect, we build. And I call him my brother. He's from Philly. I'm gonna excuse him for being from Philly because if you and Al, you don't know this. I can't stand Philly. Let me clear that up. Any baseball, basketball, any team from Philly, I'm not. You know, I got people in Philly. I love y'all. So let me just introduce my man, my brother from another mother, Al Sloan. Come on, Al. Let the folks know who you are, bro.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Alfred Sloan. As Jerome said, I'm a member of Buy Black for Life. And in addition to that, there's a lot of other things that we kind of do behind the scenes with the African American experience and business and culturally as well. As Jerome said, I'm in the Philadelphia area. So go Eagles. Shout out to the Phillies as well. Knock them out the park in World Series. Let's go ahead and bring that trophy home.
I'm
Uh,
pulling these by the way. Let's go Philly. Yes.
Got to
Pulling
put the shameless plug in there. They doing their thing. We got two squads holding it down right now. Third one will still kind of early in the game. We'll see what it looks like. But one of the things that Jerome and I, as he said, we vibed off of was, each other's personality and our interest in making sure that the community of African American people nationally as well as globally are connected. And that's kind of how we started the conversation, and we're able to go ahead and start moving forward from there.
cool. That's what's up. And it's amazing. I sat here all day doing work. The dog was silent. I go live and here. So it's unbelievable. Please excuse me, folks. But let's
That's all
let's
right.
let's get into it. Al, talk about what it is that you and your family do, because one of the things about Buy Black for Life is we want to create Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
You and your wife and your kids, you guys you guys are really part of the Black Wall Street movement in
Yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. Please share a little bit about what you do in that movement.
Perfect, perfect. So, as Jerome said, the Black Wall Street movement is something that still continuously goes on. We learned about Black Wall Street in a historic sense from Dad Clark, Otis Clark. He was the oldest known survivor of the Black Wall Street. There's actually the Tulsa Race Massacre. They used to call them race riots, is what he affectionately known them as. But now they renamed it aptly what it really was, which was a massacre. History for whatever reason has not been kind, especially in the scholastic system, to educating us as African Americans on the impact that we had, nationally and historically. And so, for me to be somewhat comfortable with history, I'm not going to say I know everything, but I'm pretty comfortable with history in different eras. When I met Dad Clark, I had no idea that there was a Black Wall Street in Tulsa, right? I had no idea about the massacre. I had no idea about the cover up. I had no idea about the secondary boom. And then even the things that were going on, this is back in like 2002, 2003, not really even an idea of how systematically there were things that were put in place to help prevent, the rebuild and the continual acquisition of wealth. That led me to a greater study to try to find out, hey, is Tulsa like the only city that this happened with, or are there other ones, right? And if so, what impact were, governmentally, of course, Obviously, we have people that have been taken out of here prematurely that had economic focuses and were trying to unify, or they got expedited out of the country. So you know your W.E.B. Du Bois's, your Booker T. Washington's, your Magdalena Walker's, your you know John Merrick's, all of these people that played a significant role in American history and were able to help shape the focus of the African American community to be able to help really patronize each other. You know, we went from a point in history where, you know, looking at Reconstruction or even going back to just after the Civil War, we weren't treated equitably, right? So
Right.
we found these areas that other people didn't want in many cases, and we build them into these booming, you know, small towns or small metropolises or even subsections within larger cities. You know, your Harlem, your Tulsa, your, you know, Raleigh Durham area, your Atlanta, you know, all these different places and several places in Florida. And that was kind of where it started. And then, you know, had the privilege of meeting Jerome, and he was like, "Man, we gotta put some of these things on the Hurt Tour." And I'm like, "Hurt Tour?" I'm like, "What is that?"
Man, listen, my wife and I, we are unapologetic about getting out and seeing the world, seeing the country, um, and also learning other cultures,
Yeah,
right? It is
yeah,
so important for us to get out and learn what other people are doing, how they're moving, and it's such a blessing to be able to do that around the world,
yes.
without around the world. So um, we have yet to we have yet to be to go to Oklahoma. So
It is
um,
time.
and let's talk about that. Like I was gonna save it, but let's not save it. So just before Al and I came on, we talked about something that's happening on an annual basis down there in Tulsa,
Yeah,
Oklahoma. Well, this would be the second year
yeah.
something happening. Al, talk about that because I'm making plans for that. Talk about what we were discussing offline.
Definitely, definitely. So there's a Black Wall Street motorcycle rally. There's a gentleman, Marcus Boland, who actually took the mantle up, and he decided, you know, he has a very large following as far as the motorcycle community and as far as business networks with African Americans specifically. And so one of the things that he decided to do was he brought a team together to really help shape this event, which is called the Black Wall Street Motorcycle Rally. It's roughly 3 days. Typically, I think this year is or next year it'll be May 12th through the 14th, I think, or something like that.
It's
Um,
12th and 13th.
12th and 13th. Okay.
Yeah.
We came in the one that they did earlier this year. We came in about 2 days before the event started because I wanted to see what it was like for setup, and we stayed 2 days after and wanted to see what it was like for teardown. Specific reasons I won't really go into, you know, the political aspect of it on this forum, but um, it's a very unique experience, and it's something that everybody, you know, I attribute it to like a pilgrimage to Mecca, right? That's the heart of where Black business really started. In
See,
order for you to be able to understand and look at how things change from this, you know, this community that was 40 blocks, right? You
right.
need to know the real history. You need to go down there, you need to get boots on the ground, you need to see what it's like, interact with the people that are on historic Greenwood, talking with them, not just, you know, the Chamber of Commerce or the Greenwood Chamber, but specifically people that own businesses down there. So the Black Wall Street Rally was designed around obviously the motorcycle aspect of it. There's a bunch of things with bikes and slingshots and Can-Ams and things like that. But in addition to that, there's a lot of historic elements. There's a Black business panel that they typically bring in. That is a lot of people that are not just in Tulsa, but some people that are in the greater Oklahoma community, including banks, investing companies, things like that, looking at different changes in the demographics. And then in addition to that, we have obviously all the stuff associated with motorcycle, and there's some things specifically for kids. There was a carnival last year or this year. And then there was one of the newer museums, which is called Greenwood Rising. Greenwood Rising is an amazing new experience. It specifically has a certain message that they're trying to show, which I think is historically accurate. But there are a few elements that I really wish were included, but I understand that they might cause some ruffled feathers from certain skin colors. And so
Okay.
with that being stated, I kind of understand because of the, you know, who funded the museum, how certain narrative was, you know, was shaped.
So
Mhm.
so is it going to cause us to be ruffled because of the oh, okay.
No, it's
Um,
not us, but I'll take a step back. So in Tulsa, there's a history of cover-ups. The police and the law enforcement in general seized a lot of the photos that were actually taken during and shortly thereafter the massacre happened. So the few that we were able to get out that history records were ones that were utilized as postcards, and they went to other areas outside of Tulsa because that was one of the things where they had like where they marched the black men down towards the convention hall and in an internment camp. That photo actually went out as a postcard. So several of the actual pictures that we still see from there were things that were actually, they made it outside of Tulsa and they were not covered up. So when I say, ruffled feathers, if you're talking to people that are second and third generation from Tulsa, they understand what the real history is. They've actually seen some of the things. I have a few friends that have seen, the archives that they won't let out into the public domain. So,
wow.
It's a very unique situation. The only other place I've seen that where it's really happened to that great of a degree was the MOVE bombing here in Philly, right?
Right.
That made national news, but
I'll never forget watching that as a young dude, just like, wait, what happened here? That is etched in my mind like forever. You're right. That's our generation's Black Wall Street right there. Yeah, man.
And that was like, I think I was about a year old. We only lived about maybe 5 minutes away from where the MOVE bombing was. We had, as Jerome said, we had the privilege of taking our family down there. But I also took my sons with me. I have custom Black Wall Street Jordan 13s that I had done and designed with an artist. And I took my sons down to the MOVE bombing site. They actually just put up a commemorative plaque a few years ago. And I took them down to take pictures of, the sneakers with the memorial, with them holding it, and me wearing my custom Greenwood jacket specifically about Tulsa. Those are the two places in American history where citizens were bombed by other citizens from the air.
Wow. Right. I've come to do so much research and gain so much knowledge on it. What led to it basically exploding into what it was. And, we talk about critical race theory. I know in some southern states, they're looking to hide the atrocities that happened to us as Black people. We must be the true sayers. We must be, and you've done that, taking your kids down there, right? And like you said, Mecca, and it just reminds me of something and struck something in me that my wife and I, when we went to Africa earlier this year, right? And in my mind, I said, even on the plane ride, I kept saying, how can I call myself an African American? And I'd never been. Right? Not only never been to Africa, but I've never ingratiated myself into the culture of my ancestors. How could I call myself an African American? No, not just because I have the skin tone doesn't mean that I am.
No.
And then to leave there and come back, I recognize, wow, this is what we should all aspire to, right? Like you're saying, that visit to Mecca, that's that visit to the continent for us as Black people, and the Mecca being for Muslims, for business owners to go there and see. You leave, and I'm sure you did, with a different level of perspective, a different level of pride, a different level of, all right, a different level of grind. Like, what did you and your family feel when you left? What were the conversations like with your kids as well?
So it's interesting. My wife and I actually met in Tulsa, like I said, and I had never, even with knowing that from Dad Clark, I went to church in North Tulsa, which is right by where Greenwood is at, right? So my old church is now what's called Transformation Church, which is under Mike Todd, the big mega church now. But I never made it appointed to go and actually visit physically Black Wall Street, right? And so when I came back home, I remember thinking, I'm like, yo, like, Dad Clark, not only on the Black Wall Street side, but on the spiritual side and also on the business side, he impacted my life on a personal level. not
Mm.
talking about, anything else.
Right.
And I said, how is it that I can allow somebody like that to make that type of an impact, and I don't even take an opportunity to go see what it
Dig.
is, the streets that he walked, you know what I mean,
Right.
and be able to understand and look at the actual, if there are memorial markers or whatever's down there. I didn't know. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take it as an initiative. I'm going to do it not only just for myself. My wife and I are going to go, and we're going to bring the children. We're going to make the sacrifice, and we're going to do it. And we went down there, and I told her, I said, our entire goal is to stimulate the economy. I said, we built the relationships. That's not about it. We've been spending money, here and there, here and there. But when we go there, we visited several different businesses. I mean, there's the Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge, which is owned by the homie Cody Ransom. Cody is like the third generation directly out of Black Wall Street. I mean, his grandmother and his grandfather were literally on the claim sheet. So they have a memorial marker that has all of the people that submitted insurance claims that were pretty much denied. Like they denied 95, 98% of all of the claims that were submitted. So Cody owns that. Then there's a popsicle shop, man. We were down there in May. It was like a good 90 degrees on a regular. Then a couple days we got up to closer to 100. So we was in that popsicle shop probably 2-3 times a day, and never got tired of popsicles, and they all slapped. And then on top of that, you have some of the other businesses that are newer and upcoming. So there was Wanda J's, which is down there. It's one of the restaurants, amazing food. And one of the things that we did as we were leaving out of there was we talked to our kids about what specifically from that trip stood out to them the most.
Mm.
And my two oldest, which are 10 and 7, it'll be 8 in a couple weeks. They said, the museum, there's a place in the museum where it's a barbershop scene that's actually interactive. And it talks about the birthing of the barbershop and how that was essential to not only Black business, but also to the Black social experience. And I
Yeah.
was like, wow, they both of them got that because it was interactive,
Wow.
right?
That,
And my youngest son, on the other hand, he was like, the popsicles, Dad.
that's okay. That's but what I love about you and your wife is you both have laid that foundation for your babies so that they know, they're
Yeah,
aware, right? And generations in the past, not everybody did, and
no,
that's one of the things that I say in regret of my own family. A lot of my history was unspoken because
mm,
of relationships, whatever they may be. Um, my mother did. She was unapologetic, being a New Yorker, being a nurse with the Black Panthers. She
mm,
did some things, for example, about Malcolm X. She did. She was very clear in saying to me about Martin Luther King and being in New York, how Jerome, they love him now. They hated him then. And I was like, really? And she was like, I'm talking about your own people.
yeah,
And it was deep to hear my moms who lived during that time to express that, and knowing that, because she was seeing in me something that I didn't, and she was
mm,
seeing a Martin, she was seeing a Malcolm X in me, and she was basically letting me know, you're gonna do some of the work that you're gonna do for your people. That doesn't mean you're gonna be loved. As a matter of fact, you
that's
would
it.
not like. So I need you to be prepared for that. So you've laid the groundwork that hopefully will inspire and your children to even dig and do more and be part of something amazing down there. So thank you for that. What do you think, Al, is what do you think is the benefit of a business owner? Let's say they can't make it to
Okay.
Tulsa, right? What do you think is important for, I'm a business owner, why should I be aware of what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Why should I be aware of that? What do you think is the reason that a Black business owner should be aware of that?
So I think there's a lot of historic elements that are still being played out today, and I think that in order for you to understand how specific demographics move with chess type tactics, whereas we're sitting here, we're just like, I'm trying to make my business be sustainable, right? That's not the overall goal. And I think when you know, as an individual business owner, and we also have businesses with each of our children as well, and I'll shout them out at the end. But as an individual business owner, there's a larger picture, and it has to do with unification and being able to support not only just your business, but being able to support other people who look like you and support their businesses and developing that network. I feel that, you know, Tulsa had a very, very good model that JB Stratford and OW Gurley and several other people that actually really began the model. And I'll give an example. So most of Tulsa, when you look at Greenwood specifically, the bottom level of every single one of those residences, I call them residences because they were built like houses, were specifically business levels. So, you know, when you see the poppy stores, the bodegas or whatever, 9 times out of 10, it's one level, but above that, there's always apartments or rooming house or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So one of the things that was really interesting about that model is that when they designed these buildings, a portion of the way that the rent as it was that was paid, it actually went to sustaining families that were then coming into Tulsa, as well as help the further economic development of people's new ideas and businesses. So you didn't have a mortgage sitting on your property, right? What you had was, I'm committed to pay X% of every single one of my profits throughout the course of the year, and I would do it in these increments, whether it's monthly or weekly or bi-monthly, whatever the increments were that you allocated it for. And then that money was then used to help sustain not only the community, but also when you had your downtime in your business where you didn't have a lot of money coming through, you had tenants that were above you that were able to help offset whatever the overall cost of that
So it
building
was like
was.
taxes, basically. Got
Yeah,
it.
100%, 100%. And that model is really interesting because many of the other places that we see or other communities that are coming now and starting businesses in the US, they're like, oh, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All I gotta do is get a storefront, first floor. As long as it has at least one or two apartments above it, I'm good. I don't have to worry about that. It'll subsidize the utilities and go
Yeah.
from there. Yep.
Yeah.
So as a business owner, you need to sit down, you need to look at what the original plan was, look at the way that it was able to maximize, look at the hundreds of businesses that were able to be generated and what that amount of people that brought into, and look at the revenue. I mean, if you do make it down there and you're able, or you want to go on, go to Greenwood Rising online and you want to look at the virtual platform, you can do that. But look at the financial impact that one, I'm not even going to say small community, but that one community of 40 blocks generated that literally was shaped the course of history as far as Black businesses. You know, anytime you got somebody like Booker T. Washington saying this is the blueprint,
That's the blueprint right there. That's
you
it.
kind of should take heed.
And we must, I feel like we have to be unapologetic to keep this conversation around
Yes.
Wall Street always at the forefront. When we're talking about business, when we're talking about civil rights, when we're talking about equality,
Yeah.
that's a lane that needs to never be ignored. It needs to always be addressed because, again, like you said, that's the model, right? And
Right.
you think about that ever since then, we have been trying to replicate that same model without success,
Yep.
right?
And there was a lot of trying to replicate it. And many of those cities, you know, for one reason or another, there was a massacre, or people were ran out of the city or displaced. There was eminent domain that was, and Tulsa's also victim to that, as well as many other places. You know, Harrisburg, where I'm originally from, I mean, that we had a thriving Black business district, which is right at the foot of the Capitol, right? This is the capital of Pennsylvania. We well above the Mason-Dixon line. And they ran all of those people out,
Wow.
reclaimed that land, and then turned around and allocated it elsewhere, right? And that was definitely in the North. Same thing in North New Jersey, same thing in New York with, you know, Seneca Village, and the list goes on and
Yeah,
on and on.
yeah, Seneca Village. And people, if you don't know about Seneca Village, do your research on it. You will probably look at Central Park in a different way.
Oh yeah,
Um, I had the um, discomfort of reading up on that a couple of years ago. I think is when I started doing my research on that, and talking to my wife, I'm like, "Did you know?" And she was like, "Yeah, I know." And I was like, "Yeah, it's history from us." And
yeah,
again, what they desire to do, and it's twofold. The reason they don't want to be held accountable for it. And number two, they want us to think that we as Black people have never thrived. And we have. We must continue to talk about it. Al, I know today is a short time for you. I'm so sad, not sad. I know you have, I love the fact that you do your family. I love that. I respect that in you as a father, as a man. We talk about that when we're offline. So
Yes.
I know we have to wrap up. We have less than 5 minutes left. I have to ask you, first of all, please shout out your children's business. Please
Definitely.
let us.
So my children have a completely custom business. I started with Power Wheels. It's called LAS Custom Style. That's LAS Custom Style, not customs, but custom style. And that specific business was generated out of the desire for me to teach my kids how a business can be sustained. So we started with Power Wheels, and little kids ride on cars, and we started there. We did a couple events, different shows. They saw that they were able to flip them and buy them and then sell them to their, cousins or neighbors or whoever was interested in being able to do that. And there was a profit to be had with that. And then we turn around and we would reinvest. So since my oldest two are out of Power Wheels now, they've moved into more custom vehicles and custom apparel. My oldest daughter loves to design clothing, and she does it from scratch. So she has her own sewing machine. It's actually right over there, and and has bags and bags and bags of different fabrics. So she makes clothing for her dolls that are all custom, one of one. And she's working on a fashion show that she's going to be utilizing that as well. So that's my kid's brand.
Whatever she needs, the platform, whatever she needs, Buy Black for Life wants to be at the fashion show. If that's our first fashion show, I'm there, bro. So
I'd love it. I'd love it. I would definitely let her know. I know she's working on the designs now.
and let me be clear, right? One of the things, and I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, Alan. I see your wife put the website for the custom style in the chat. So thank you, Shawnee. Love you, miss you. One of the things that I'm most proud of with Buy Black for Life is when we had the opportunity for Black History Month, we asked our to share with us a historical figure to them. It's coming back in this February 2023. We're bringing it back because it was the dopest thing I'd ever saw in my life with our people. And what really was like a surprise to me, it wasn't just they were talking about historical figures that you and I know, right? For example, one young man who talked about his grandfather being the first Black mayor of Hempstead, New York. I know that man. I know him. I lived in Hempstead when his grandfather was the mayor. So for that, and I didn't know that going in, that's who his grandfather was. I'm hearing it and I'm like, wait, you got to be kidding me. So it's amazing because our young people, what we are doing now, we're doing it for our young people. We're laying some dope bricks for our young people, and we're going to continue to do that. So I love what you and Shawnee do for your family. And I just have one last question because I know you got to go, but it's a question. If you're on Buy Black for Life with me, you're going to get this question. What does buying black mean to you?
So buying black for me it's a very, very interesting topic. I mean, we talked about this in numerous interactions, and I think the biggest thing, in light of this conversation, I'll leave you guys with is buying black means taking your resources and intentionally planting seed with people that look like you. I'm talking financial. I'm talking about support as far as sharing the message. I mean, I can spout off different apparel lines that are specifically from Tulsa, that are outside of Tulsa, that are completely Black-owned businesses that are impacting the community and doing stuff with the youth. Being able to buy black means that you have a direct relationship with these particular people, the founders, the individuals, and you're supporting what it is that their mission and their mandate is. In order for you to be able to buy black, you have to know who it is that you're buying from. You don't need to be buying from a website that has Black people in the pictures and is not owned by Black people, right? If that's what it is, That's
Yeah.
what you need to do.
Yes, yes. So Al, thank you for taking the time. And just if you're watching, just so you know, me and Alfred, we're going to be doing something on a monthly basis where we
Yes.
talk on Black Wall Street. Because again, as I said, this is a conversation that needs to remain top of mind. Um,
Yes.
it's a goal that no matter where you are in the world, and I'm saying in the world because Buy Black for Life is in 99 countries throughout the world, but
Yes.
in the world, we should have the mindset of building Black Wall Streets, or as I say, in addition to that, Black Wakandas, because we have Black excellence within our very own communities. Yes, sir.
That's
Yes.
right.
So we have to be focused on that. And Al and I are going to definitely have conversations where we share about what's happening and our thoughts about what's happening and continue to teach about what Black Wall Street is. So,
That's right.
Alfred Stone, my man, Philly, thank you. Love you, brother. Have a wonderful evening. If
Indeed.
you
Love you as well.
if you are watching once again, thank you for tuning in, for dialing in, for watching this. And as I always say, for the love of our people, buy Black for Life.
That's it. 100%. All right, everyone. Have a